Hey guys, it's Fida and today we're going to be making a two-tiered chocolate cake. Basically this cake is just a normal chocolate cake covered with chocolate frosting and then we're going to stack it up. The bottom layer is going to be bigger than the top layer and we're going to insert in dowels so that it stays in place and doesn't collapse. In this recipe I'm going to show you a chocolate cake recipe and the whipped cream frosting that I'm going to use for it. I don't know how it's going to taste with other frostings, but it tastes extremely delicious with this chocolate whipped cream frosting. So without any further ado, let's get on to making this two-tiered chocolate cake. First, here I have 3/4 cup of water and we'll need a tablespoon of coffee. So put the coffee powder into the water and whisk it until it's nicely dissolved, and let's set that aside. Next, take a cup or a bowl and we have to assemble the wet ingredients. For that, put in 2 eggs and whisk it. Then add 1/4 cup of sour cream. You can also add yogurt. And just whisk it until well combined and add in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then into it add in 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Again whisk it until the oil no more comes up, and then add in the mixed coffee that we kept aside earlier. Also add 1/2 cup of buttermilk. Then let's whisk it one last time. And now our wet ingredients are ready. Let's set it aside. Next we have to assemble the dry ingredients. For that, into a bowl add in 1 1/3 cup of sugar. It doesn't really matter if you use powdered sugar or normal white granulated sugar. Then set a sift and add in 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Sift that in well. Again into the sift add 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Sift that again and set the sift aside. Next you have to whisk this until well combined and our dry ingredients are ready. Let's bring back the wet ingredients and slowly pour in a little bit of that wet ingredient into the dry ingredients mixture and keep mixing it. Once you've mixed the first part, then you can go on adding the rest of it. Now I've added all of that mixture. And now the batter is ready. At this point, the batter is a little bit watery, but it's fine, that's what we need. Let's set it aside and prep the pans. Here I have 2 pans. One is a 6-inch pan and the other one is a 4-inch pan. So I've lined it with parchment paper and I've also greased the top and bottom. Let's pour an even amount of the batter into both of the pans. And now we have to keep it in a preheated oven for baking, and after baking I'm also going to cool it, level the top and cut it into 2 layers, and I'll bring it back. My cakes are baking. Meanwhile we're going to make the whipped cream frosting. Today I'm showing you a very delicious chocolate whipped cream frosting recipe. For that, into a bowl add in 2 cups of whipping cream and start beating it until the consistency just gets a little bit thickened. At this point, this is the consistency what we need. It is not thick, it is still watery, but I can say it is a little bit more thicker than the old stage. At this point, we can add in the powdered sugar. There is no special amount of this powdered sugar. You can add it according to your taste. Add it a tablespoon by tablespoon and keep mixing after each addition. I'm totally adding 1 cup of powdered sugar today. You can use it according to your sweetness amount. At this point, we've added in all the powdered sugar. And now we can start adding our cocoa powder. So on your mixer back again and start adding a tablespoon by tablespoon of your cocoa powder. Again, the cocoa powder also doesn't have a special amount. You can add it according to your preference. Today I'm adding half a cup of the cocoa powder. You can really add it to your taste preference. So in between, just scrape down the sides. And then beat it back again. So at this point, if you feel that your whipped cream frosting is very thick, you can add around half a tablespoon of milk and beat it again so the consistency will become a little bit more lightened. My frosting is in the perfect consistency, so I'm not gonna add the milk. And right now the frosting is ready. Let's keep it in the refrigerator. Right now, both of my cakes are baked and cooled. I've also leveled the top and cut it into 2 layers. I've done the same thing with both of my cake layers. Now let's start frosting the cake. Take your turntable, add a small dollop of frosting on top of the turntable and keep your first layer of the cake. Make sure you keep the bottom one. The bottom tier of the cake should be at the bottom. Brush it with some simple syrup and add a nice amount of frosting and spread it towards the sides and even it out all through the cake. Make sure to simple syrup the cake because simple syruping it will make the cake more soft. Then keep your second layer of the cake. Add a nice amount of the sugar syrup. Smooth the sides if any frosting is poking out. And let's set it in the refrigerator until we frost our second layer of the cake. So now we have to frost the second layer of your cake. That's the second tier of your cake. Again, continue with the same process. Just simple syrup the first layer. Spread some frosting. Keep the second layer. Simple syrup the second layer again. Smoothen down the sides. And let's set it aside until we crumb coat our next layer of the cake. So now we have to crumb coat our cake. It's very necessary to crumb coat the cake because there are a lot of crumbs in this cake. So it's very necessary to crumb coat it so that the crumb coat catches all the crumbs in it, and when we do the second layer of the frosting, that's the final layer, none of the crumbs will pop out. Smoothen the cake and let's set that in the refrigerator for half an hour. Crumb coat your second tier of the cake just in the same way. Now that's crumb coated, let's set that also in the refrigerator for half an hour. Now both of my cakes have been crumb coated and it's chilled. Now you can start doing your final layer of the frosting. Put a nice amount of frosting on top, smoothen down the top, and then you can work your way down the sides. You can really frost it in the way that you like and you feel comfortable. Once your cake is nicely frosted, keep it in the refrigerator for 2 hours until it's completely chilled. I've done the same thing with my second layer of the cake. Both of my cakes are chilled for a perfect 2 hours. Then take your second tier of the cake using a bench scraper or anything and then just keep that on top. Now I have a dowel over here so that it doesn't collapse. Let's insert the dowel inside. Just make a mark. And you have to cut maybe half an inch below the mark. Then insert the dowel inside and cover the seam with a little bit of the frosting and no one will come to know. Then you can decorate your cake in the way that you like. I'm just making it simple. I'm just adding some shredded chocolate on the top. And that's it, our cake is ready. Let's cut into this cake and serve it. So there it is.
Thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up down below. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Thanks once again, and bye-bye.